We are so close to the Switch 2, and yet there's still some mystery surrounding this thing. I feel like, even though we have a pretty good idea of what the system is at this point, being that it's very similar to the Switch 1, there are still some unknowns, especially as we've seen this ourselves with some of the videos Nintendo's have been, hold on, let me redo this one more time, sorry.
That's okay.
We are so close to the Switch 2, and yet some mysteries still remain. Because for as much as we know about it, especially with how similar to the Switch 1 it seems like it is in some ways, there are still some questions myself and others have about it, including you, Don, and Nick, right?
Yeah.
No, I'm ready to talk about some of these questions. And sometimes Nintendo does answer them, and you guys might have the answer to them, because sometimes I forget to check the Nintendo Today app.
Right.
So, like, you guys might have some of these answers, and I hope that's the case.
So this could be a fun discussion to go over both the unanswered questions, but also maybe some of the questions that we do have answers to that we just don't know about, because this information has been everywhere, like scattered all over the universe, it feels like, and I don't, even myself don't have a fully great grasp of what all is out there. But so yeah, I wanted to go over our top questions we have remaining about the system, along with a lot of questions you guys had as well. And on top of it all, we're going to be doing this in two parts. So part one will be focused primarily around the Switch itself, or Switch 2 itself, rather. A Switch 1 discussion would be very boring at this point. And the other will be Mario Kart World focused, and maybe other games as well. So stay tuned for part 2 coming up soon. But for now, let's talk about the Switch 2. So Don, let's start off with you. What is your first question you have that, as far as we know, is unanswered?
So, one thing that they didn't really communicate to us at all, which, hey, shocker, they didn't communicate very much now and again about Switch 2. Apparently, so Game Chat supports 12 people, which you only learn this by going to the website. So how's the quality if you go by 12 people? Is it similar to seen with 4 people? Is it worse?
Oh my god. I hope it's worse. I want like 1 frame per hour, baby, on those camera feeds.
Yeah, at that point, it's got to be a slideshow, right? Like, if they didn't even tell us or show us that you can do it with 12 people, and their confidence level of just showing it with 4 people wasn't that high, or wasn't that doable, like, I can't imagine 12 people running well at all. Or even imagine having 12 screens on your TV at once, or even if you're in handheld mode, you have 12 different screens. That would just be way too chaotic.
Yeah, I do wonder, go ahead.
Or is it like Zoom, where they just focused on 4 and then rotate out as people are talking?
That's what I was wondering, if maybe that's the route they would go. Or maybe there's 4 primary feeds and everyone else is audio only. Who knows what? Your Zoom idea is a good one, though. But I do kind of like the idea of 12 tiny windows, but that would just be hilarious. And as for the performance, like, I wonder, I guess it depends where the bottleneck is. Like, I don't know if it's running at low frame rate because of how many feeds are coming into your Switch, or just because that's the feed it's outputting to the others. So if it's the latter, then that means the feed will be about the same, regardless of how many people it is. If it's based on how many feeds are incoming to your Switch, then yeah, that could be a problem if you have 12 of them, right? So
yeah.
So yeah, good question. We'll have to see what Game Chat ends up, how that fully works. It's so weird. For as much time as they spent focusing on it, I still feel like we don't really have a great idea of how exactly it works, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, also in a similar sense, which is sort of the follow-up question. So, we don't know the boundaries acceptable third-party cameras for Game Chat. They said regularly, hey, you can support cameras that we don't make.
Right.
Like, cool. Can I use this webcam for this?
Yeah, that's actually, first off, like, that's awesome they offer that functionality. It's less awesome that we don't know what that means, right? Like, how many brands are actually supported? But they say supported cameras, right? Or something of that nature. So is that could be like a specific few models, or will a random, like, Logitech I have lying around, would that work, you know? I mean, I guess to that point, the fact that Hori, an official accessory manufacturer, is making that awesome Piranha Plant camera, but only 480p, maybe it bodes well for a lot of cameras working, right? So
sure, yeah.
But we'll see.
I just got like a 4K. Yeah, I just got like a 4K web camera, and I didn't purchase any specific one for the Switch 2. So if I can just use this instead of buying the Piranha Plant one or the official Nintendo one, I would be happy just to use this one instead of going out to buy another one. But yeah, this list, like, we have no idea. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, cool of Nintendo for offering that at all, but it would be nice to have some more details on what that entails. All right.
Exactly.
Wait, I have a question. How am I supposed to protect my Switch 2?
I'm glad you asked that, Nick, because if you're traveling anywhere with your Nintendo Switch 2, you're going to want to protect it, and I've got just the thing for you.
Oh my god, I didn't use their iPad cases.
Yeah? How are they?
They're really good. Really good quality.
Yeah, so let me tell you more about the TomTalk case. This is a TomTalk Switch 2 Slim case. Emphasis on the slim because look at that profile, making it super easy to travel with, and not just because it has an awesome carrying handle. And it's exactly what you need to protect your brand new Nintendo Switch 2 investment, as the thing is extremely well built. Just listen to that. Now, if we take a look inside, you can see that not only has it been custom designed to perfectly fit your Nintendo Switch 2, as you can see there, but there's also room for up to 12 games, and I do love the touch of these little slip-ins that you can use to write your name and contact information on in the event you were to lose your Switch 2 and your carrying case. Now, whether anyone actually returns it to you, I can't guarantee, but it's nice to have that feature there. Plus, it's available in 3 different colors. Of course, you have standard white, in addition to a black version with an awesome Game Boy Color-like logo, or if you want to split the difference, you can get a gray version as well. And perhaps best of all, no matter which version you go with, you can get 15% off of it right now by using my code NEWGEAR15. I'll also put that in the description below along with a link to this exact product. So again, if you want a slim carrying case to protect your Nintendo Switch 2, you can't go wrong with the Tom Talk Nintendo Switch 2 slim case. Now let's get back to all those other unanswered Nintendo Switch 2 questions. Nick, what's your question, or one of your questions you have for us? Or for Nintendo, I guess.
Yeah, so my question for Nintendo, and maybe you guys seen this on the Nintendo Today. I, of course, haven't seen it. I haven't seen them anywhere. But what's the Mii creator going to look like on the Switch 2? Right? Like, again, like, unless I'm crazy, I don't think we've seen this at all. On the Switch 1, you have to go to your profile, you have to, like, click the icon, and then you can start making a Mii character. But, like, I don't think we've seen anything for it for the Switch 2, right?
So there is the Mii option in settings. We've seen it in the accessibility videos, I believe. But outside of that, I think it's just the standard Mii Maker because they're saving the good Mii Maker for specific games like Miitopia and Tomodachi Life.
Right.
Yeah, I just have a sigh. I just wanted like a few more improvements. Like, it doesn't have to be as insane as Tomodachi Life, right? Or Miitopia, right? Like, I just want some more improvements since like the previous one. At least not so hidden within the menus, right? Like, I don't know where you could put it. Like, is there a better place to put it on the Switch 2?
Not really. Like, where would you want to put it? Under your profile and then go for free phases to find it under your profile? I think like having a me button makes sense, but that's the only way I would put it, really.
Wait, yeah, actually, sorry, I may have missed it. I was looking at other questions. Did you bring up the possibility of it having a camera-based Mii creator like on 3DS?
Oh, that would be fun. Yeah,
that's a good idea.
We were just talking about, they have the cameras now. Like, can they make us our own Mii now, especially with all, you know, I feel like especially now that there are tons of other creators out there, I mean, like avatar creators that do the same thing. Like, surely Nintendo should bring it back, right?
I just feel at this point, why not add the Miitopia Mii Maker to actual Miis?
That'd be a good idea. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Alright, well, speaking of OS-related things, because creating a Mii is part of the OS, I want to know, and sadly, I think we all know the answer, but I still want to know for sure, are there any other themes beyond Basic White and Basic Black? Please, anything! Is there anything more?
I don't think there's gonna be anything more, and this kind of ties into like my other question too. Like I was hoping that there'd be some sort of customization on top of like the folders that we had from Switch 1, because that was in a random update out of nowhere, and we thought it was gonna be a little bit bigger than just you have to go all the way to the right side of the screen to actually look through your folders. But yeah, to have customization outside of the simple black and white, I don't think it's going to happen. If they haven't shown it yet and they've been so secretive, or not even secretive, about the UI, I can't see it happening. Dom, what do you think?
No, I don't think that. No.
I will say, I will go so far, and I'm probably going to regret this, because I know where this path leads. Hope. The path of hope. But I am hopeful that there will be a big update down the line for the Switch OS in which they start incorporating some more ambitious features. And I hope that's when we finally get like an actual custom theme based thing, like on the 3DS. You know, where there are custom themes you can buy. But it's Nintendo, so maybe that's probably not going to happen. You know, that's not my hope for it.
Yeah.
All right.
It is so shocking that they just let that go on 3DS, right? Like, they didn't even bring it over to Wii U or Switch 1. Like, I before the eShop closed, I think I bought like 10 different profiles or the custom backgrounds, because I was like, oh, you're not going to be able to get these anywhere again. So, like, I want to make sure I have them on my 3DS.
Absolutely. It makes so much sense. I mean, it's free money. It would print money for them, so I don't get it. Anyways, we'll have to wait and see. Don, what's your next question?
I want to know if Bluetooth audio doesn't constantly delay now.
Oh, this is a good one. I was on a plane not too long ago. I was using Bluetooth, and I was playing a platformer where, you know, you need that precision, and the sound effects are like a half-second delayed. I'm like, how do I play this? Like, it was so annoying.
Because they kind of because obviously the controllers already use a Bluetooth connection,
Right.
so they kind of bolted Bluetooth audio later on in the system update.
Mm-hmm.
And like, with you now supporting 3D audio over headphones, and you making all of these strides in making sure, hey, you have now better audio, you would expect them, or at least hope, that they support a better Bluetooth codec.
Right. Like, yeah. I mean, I don't know what the problem is. Like, is it is it just innate to Bluetooth? Is it already resolved elsewhere? Like, because I know for like movies and music, like it doesn't matter. You know, it can account for that delay, right? But with video games, like you can't delay the game by a quarter or half second to be unplayable. So yeah, I hope that there is a solution to it because yeah, it's almost not worth using, right? With that delay there. So
like when I travel, I always have my headphones with me, my Bluetooth ones and my wired ones. So I never had this issue because I've never used Bluetooth headphones on my Switch 1.
Right.
And like you said, Andre, if you're playing a platformer, like you wouldn't be as precise as possible. I can imagine like how bad it would be to play like a rhythm game, like Cadence of Hyrule or something, where you need to be precise and listen to the music and move to the beat of the music. Like that's crazy that's been an issue with the Switch 1. So hopefully that is resolved with Switch 2.
Yeah, at this point, like, I have a long commute from my work, which is about 2 hours one way. I always now have to bring wired headphones for my Switch 1. I'm like, could I just bring one pair of Bluetooth ones, please?
But to their credit, at least they still have a headphone port at all. They have, both options are available still, so we'll give them some accolades for that. So
take that, mobile phones.
Exactly. All right, here's my next one. My next question. Are we really stuck with 30-second clips again? 30-second video clips? So they posted a video a couple days ago on Nintendo Today showing off the sound effects, but as part of that, we could see that when they went to the media gallery, that it suggested that there's still just 30-second clips. So that probably is the answer, but I'm hoping that maybe there's a setting somewhere that you can change the default amount of time, because 30 seconds is pathetic. You know, like, I mean, yeah, it works in most cases, but there have been so many times where the thing I wanted to capture was actually farther back than that. You know, every other platform, Xbox, PlayStation, they let it go up to, like, what, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, I think? Like, why can't Switch 2 do that? Or maybe it can, you know?
Side tangent, will the quality be better of those clips?
That's what I'm thinking, too, because on Switch 1, what is it, like 480 maybe, or even like
I think it's 720.
It's 720. Okay, that's good. At least it's 720. But like, I doubt it's going to record in 4K. If that's the reason for 30 seconds, then I'm like, okay, that might make a little sense. But it's probably going to be 1080, right?
Which is at least better. Like,
yeah,
it used to be 720. And at least what I hope is that it doesn't run at low frame rates again, because I barely used the clips one time again outside of compilation stuff.
Right, because it was 720p 30, so it was capturing a half the frame rate of a lot of games, right? So if it's a solid 1080p 60, I'll be pretty happy with that. I would still prefer longer. 4K would absolutely be peak, though. Although there's no way we're getting 4K 120 capture with Metroid Prime 4.
No.
As amazing as that would be. So,
is there any options on Switch 1 to change the capture option? Like it's always the set frame rate. It's always the 30 seconds, right? Like there's nothing. Yeah, that's just shocking. And for Switch 2, at least they'll be able to send them to your phone, right? Your smartphone device.
Yes.
Because you'll be able to just download it from your phone. Because on Switch 1, it is just a pain getting any pictures or videos from your Switch 1 to your phone, because you have to scan the QR and it takes you to like that website, and then you have to download them. Like,
wait,
I'm a little excited about that.
Well, I mean, there's an alternative to that. Like, you can also plug in the USB-C cable that comes with most controllers and plug it into your PC. But yeah, it's now far easier with the Nintendo Switch mobile app.
Yeah. Well, speaking of transferring things from one thing to another, we have a question from the audience, actually. I have no idea how to pronounce it, so I apologize. Sin Mode Yeslaw says, is it easy to transfer data from the Switch 1 to Switch 2? We haven't really quite seen this process. We've seen the setup screen for it. You can actually access it now. You can actually do part of the step right now yourself on your Switch 1. I don't know if any of us have. Probably not. But it seems like my guess would be, based on what we've seen and how it's worked before, it's probably pretty easy. For most of the data.
So what they said on the website is that you log into one of your Nintendo accounts and then carry it over wholesale, so you don't need to download the Animal Crossing transfer app. You don't need to local transfer certain local data, like some games only have local data and don't store in the cloud. for example, I think one of the Splatoon games, on most of the Pokemon games, you cannot transfer through cloud at all.
Right.
So basically, it will transfer everything wholesale from your Switch 1 to a Switch 2.
That is how it always should have worked. So it's nice that they're finally doing it that way for the upgrade. So that's good to hear. I just want them to bring the Pikmin back from the Wii to the Wii U. They were adorable. Where are the Pikmin at?
Or even on the Wii, when you download like a virtual console game, I think it would have Mario like run by or something like that.
Oh yeah, or the shopping bag on 3DS. Yeah, they should bring back touches like that. So, all right, Don, what's your next question?
Yeah. So this is a question that sort of also came up with our last discussion about, like, we have a month left until Switch 2. It's like, there doesn't feel like there's a major showcase for the mouse controls at all. Like, what is their vision moving forward in terms of first-party games with that? Because, like, for third-party games, for games that are made on PC, for example, it makes sense to include mouse controls.
Right.
But for games that are naturally made by Nintendo, what is their vision when it comes to mouse games?
It is interesting that I feel like going from their directs and everything, like their online media, they never really gave a strong vision for the mouse, right? Like they've talked about it, they've talked about its inclusion in some games, but it's still like not entirely clear like if that's a direction they're really moving well into or not. I will say though that and maybe your take is different, Don, but going to one of those Switch 2 hands-on events, for me, being there and seeing how they set everything up and displaying the mouse feature, I felt really good about it. Like, my take on it is that they are really embracing the mouse. Because they really showed that any chance they had at that Switch 2 event.
Right.
And it makes me really hopeful for it. But yeah, I am wondering, like, what is the future for it? Like, what else are they going to do for it? Especially with the weird thing here, and we probably have some other related questions. We just found out the details about the first 12 games are getting free upgrades from Switch 1 when played on Switch 2. The weird missing one. Oh, actually, well, part of it is we do have Game Builder Garage getting mouse support too, which is great. But oddly, no Mario Maker 2. So, like, that seems like that'd be an easy one.
I think it mostly comes down to with Game Builder Garage already was built with
a mouse,
like mouse support in mind, with a USB mouse. Same way that Clubhouse Games was already made with support of one copy of a game in mind as well. Like, I think my main issue is like they should have considered Mario Maker 2 as a Switch 2 edition.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, Nick, what do you got for us?
I mean, I have a question that can kind of tie into, I guess, the free update games, if we want to go that route. Does that sound good?
Sure, yeah.
Go for it, yeah.
Yeah, so, like, we look at this list of free games. How many are on here? 1, 2, 3, 4,
12.
5, 6. There's 12 games on here?
11.
It's 12,
it's Pokemon twice, so...
Yeah, Pokemon twice. Yeah, so, like, we look at the games here, and the list goes all the way back from 2017 with old games like Mario Odyssey, up all the way till, like, Echoes of Wisdom, which came out last year. So, like, if you look at this list, there's, like, some weird games. Like you guys said, like, Mario Maker's not on this list. I don't see Splatoon. I don't see Smash Bros. I don't see Animal Crossing. So does that tell us anything of what games we could be seeing coming, like, next year, within the next year or two? Or potentially Switch 2 versions of those games since they're not on the free update list?
It's hard to say, Like, I'm two minds about this. At one point, I don't think this is the entirety of updates they're probably doing. There's likely more in the pipeline. They're doing 12 games at once of the 22 games they made on Switch 1, which is already like a good 10% of it. And then you also have to realize they're also doing a few more games as Switch 2 editions. I don't rule it out that they're doing more. Like, it makes sense that they're just building piece by piece. But I do think there are certain games that they specifically are ignoring, with in mind that they're likely doing a new version or a new entry in that series.
So, Don, like, you saying it like piece by piece, like the next time we see like these free updates, are there going to be another like 5 or 10 games, or is it going to be like one game like every like 3 months or so?
Have they even said that, by the way? Have they said there's more coming?
No, I don't think
they kind of left it in the dark. Right. So I'm assuming they're going to do a few more updates. Like, it's not going to be the complete end of it.
Right.
But it's hard to tell. Like, I think information like this is so hard to say. Who knows what Nintendo is doing?
Yeah, and I feel like that it shouldn't be, right? Like, they should just tell us, like, more are planned on the way, right? Or something as simple as that. Like, I like the updates. It's great that they're free, especially, but it would be nice to know if there's more to come, you know? It'd be weird that these are the only 12 games that are ever given free updates, you know? And also, like, it's a little weird, too, how they decide, like, what gets a free update versus what gets a Switch 2 edition. I mean, it's not weird in the sense that the Switch 2 editions, we now know, include extra content, but, like, why, for instance, couldn't I get that free... why couldn't I get the free resolution boost and frame rate boost if I wanted to play Zelda for free rather than having to buy the Switch 2 edition, right? Like... You know, it's...
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, I have a question, and this is... some might say it's obvious, and maybe it is, I don't know, but every time we've seen Game Chat, it's always been using, you know, the official, the camera and the built-in microphone on the Switch 2. What we haven't seen is anyone using a headset. Now, we do know that the headset port, or the microphone, the headphone port, there we go, supports microphones, I believe, but I'm like, do we know for sure that'll be supported by Game Chat? Like, that could be a third-party related thing, like for, you know, Fortnite or whatever. So do we know for sure if we can use headsets on Switch 2 online, official first-party Switch 2 online games? Can I use a headset to play Mario Kart, for instance? You know, Mario Kart World.
So the thing is with Switch 1 is that you technically could use headsets with certain games.
Right, certain games, yeah.
Yeah, like, the only first-party game that supported it was Pokemon Unite. And then it mostly was games like Fortnite. Like, you could plug in a headphone jack of Switch, and it would use the microphone that way.
Right, exactly.
So I've the assumption that, yeah, you can, but, like, with anything, they haven't really told us that.
Right.
Like, this should be like simple, like yes or no from Nintendo, right? Like, that's the confusing thing. And like, if you go back to, I mean, I've only used voice chat maybe like once or twice on like, not voice chat, but whatever the game chat is for like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe or Splatoon 2 or 3. And you would have to use the mobile app, right? Like, you would have to connect your headphones to that to talk to people. Is that right?
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't do it directly with your Switch, right?
No.
Remember when that app first came out? You couldn't even you couldn't even put your phone in sleep mode because it would break up the connection.
That was amazing. So that's what I need to know, right? Like, because Nintendo already had that weird whole system for the first Switch. Like, it seems obvious that, yeah, headsets would work on Switch 2 with Game Chat, but we just don't know for sure, you know? It could be one of those things that even comes later in an update. Like, who knows? So it would be nice to have that question answered.
Yeah. Funny enough, I sometimes used for those third-party games, I used the PlayStation 5's Pulse headset.
Oh, yeah, nice.
You could put the USB dongle in the dock, and then it would just work.
Yeah, that's great. All right, Don, what's your next question, if you have any others?
Sure. So, we are not... Once again, this is more so down to not being told.
Right.
Can we map the GL and GR button to, say, the capture button?
That's a good one.
Like,
if that's the case, then you might be able to map like Game Chat to that button, which would be a little weird. But like,
yeah,
they haven't shown the restrictions to it, have they?
In the recent, why I say this, in the recent Nintendo Today footage we've shown, which we talked about, they showcase you moving like the A button or a different button to those GLGR buttons, but they never explicitly told us, hey, you can use the capture button this way.
Right. Yeah, it's clear, like, they do say something to the extent of you can map, like, it sounded like at least any in-game button. I forget their exact terminology. So, like, if the primary buttons, it sounds like you can map at any of those. But yeah, the system focus buttons, like, yeah, home, you know, power or snapshot, whatever, sharing, whatever it is. We don't know. Yeah, I don't think we know. And that'd be cool. Like, that'd be way easier to quickly snap a snapshot with, like, especially in a game like F-Zero, you can't take your hand off the control stick to press the capture button for a second, right? Yeah.
Like
it's barely blink in that game. If you blink, it's just like, oh, what happened? Like, everything just goes crazy.
With platformers or Splatoon or anything, it's more better to do it on the GL than on the capture button because you move your finger off the stick.
Right, exactly. Good point. I hope we find out soon, or maybe, actually, we'll probably won't find out till launch.
Yeah.
Right. Speaking of controllers, I actually have a question from Will York, who asks, I know that Switch 1 controllers are compatible with Switch 2, but what about the Pokeball Plus controller from Pokemon Let's Go Eevee/Pikachu? It's one thing I'm dying to know, but I feel like it is compatible with Switch 2 since the games are backwards compatible as well. So, correct me if I'm wrong, all we know so far for sure is I guess, Pro Controller, Joy-Cons, and then also the NSO controllers, right? 64, NES, and Super NES?
Correct. Yeah.
GameCube adapter with GameCube.
We know that for sure, too? GameCube adapter works?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So yeah, so most of the main official ones at least work. But yeah, do you think that Pokeball will work? What do you think?
I mean, it was so specific to Pokemon Let's Go and Eevee, it should work, but
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I
knows at
played
this point?
the game. I played using the Pokeball when I was playing on the TV mode. I can't see it not working.
I mean,
Right,
actually,
yeah.
That's a really good point because they've already put out the list of incompatible or partially
Yeah.
incompatible titles. That game wasn't on there, right? As far as we
No,
know.
Pokemon's not on that list.
not on
they
there.
would-
Pokemon is compatible.
Okay, but I feel like they would have mentioned it if it weren't compatible. I think they would have mentioned it. So I think that actually tells us that the Pokeball probably does work.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, great. I think Don asked the last one. Is that right? So Nick,
Yeah.
are you up next?
Yeah, so I have a question, I guess, for you guys, more so specific towards Nintendo about questions that we don't know. But like,
Okay.
what size SD card are you guys going to purchase on day one?
Oh.
Because like, now that we know that how big the games are going to be for Switch 2 outside of the first-party games, because they still seem relatively small compared to third-party games, I'm not sure what size SD card I should go with. And I think a lot of people, like even my friends, are asking me what size they should go with because, again, third-party games like Cyberpunk are going to be 64 gigs, which is pretty big for Switch titles.
Right. I think my main issue is that micro SD express cards are really expensive if you go to a really big file size. So I might just stick for now with 256 gig and just swap games out.
Yeah,
Andre,
I'm
what
not
about
buying
you?
one. I'm just gonna move my
Yeah.
Switch 1 SD card over my Switch 2. I think. Oh, although you do have the faster memory on.
You cannot use your micro
You
SD.
can't
won't
use
work.
it.
No,
Oh,
it won't
good.
work.
Okay, well, silly me. See, good thing we're having this discussion.
Yeah.
In that case, I'm just not gonna have one day one. I think so. Hopefully we're not memory anytime soon.
I was hoping I didn't need one day one, but then I realized, hey, the majority of these games are on Game Key cards.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I know. That's how
That's
they
the
get you.
issue.
All right. I've got
Andre, what do you got?
I've got a question from In My Sega Era, I believe, says, will games not listed on the Switch 2 update page, the ones we're talking about, the free updates, will they run or look a little bit better on Switch 2? So that's a good question because Nintendo, I don't think I said anything to that effect. But my gut reaction is that in some cases, at least for frame rate, yes. Kind of like what we've seen. There's kind of like what we've seen with some N64 games running on Switch, like with an uncapped frame rate, like Pilot Wings running at, I believe, 60 frames per second in some instances. I think we're gonna see the same thing here too, because we already know that I believe Echo. Wait, is it the Zelda games? No, not which Zeldas am I thinking of?
You thinking the new, like, Tears of the Kingdom Breath of the Wild with the Switch 2
No.
edition?
Wait, the Echoes of Wisdom. They didn't mention the frame rate boost for that in Link's Awakening, did they? On the
Correct. I don't
No,
believe they...
no, but we can assume because the frame rates are capped that they're going to them capped frame rates.
or uncapped, I believe. Right? I think they're uncapped. I think that's why they.
I believe they're uncapped.
Well, whatever it is. In any case, yes, Don is right in that. From what I've read, those games should actually run better, and they're probably not the only games that will run better on Switch 2 for that reason. So
I mean, even with the fact that most games will now be running from the internal SSD, which is a lot faster. Like,
good
we
point.
saw
Load times
there-
too. Yeah.
Yeah, because we saw it, for example, with Yoshi's Crafted World during the Direct, and I'm assuming that's for most games that are like good, well coded.
Right.
That they basically run a bit faster in terms of loading times,
Right,
regardless
exactly.
if they have an upgrade or not.
Yeah. New Horizons needs faster loading. So
Yeah.
that'll be good.
Yeah.
My town takes over a minute for it to load. My town is ridiculous. I don't know why it takes so freaking long. So, anyways, my next question is, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think we've seen anything in the friendless functionality. I'm wondering how different it is now. Like, is there any difference with? What
I
you
don't
can do
think
on-
there's a...
Probably not. You're probably right.
No.
That's probably why we
Yeah.
haven't seen it. There probably is no difference. Sad.
That's so
at least-
unfortunate because and that ties into one of my questions. I
Yeah.
would hope that they would have some text or some messaging feature, so I'm not texting my friends or texting you guys on Discord saying like, "Hey, I'm going to send you an invite. Are you ready to play?" on a separate device outside of my Switch 2. Like, I wish everything was just in one place.
Yeah, I don't think that you can. And the funny part is, the solution for better managing your friends list is, hey, use the Nintendo Switch app. We're adding that functionality to the Nintendo Switch app.
Yeah. Man, it's so true. Yeah, they need to improve that. I really hope they improve that all around. Like, I hate cold sending, like, friend invite, or, like, friend, play session invites. It's just weird, It'd be nice to be able to send, like, a message first or something, so it's not just, like, out of the blue. Alright, let's see. That was my question. Don, do you have any others?
Sure. Are we really going to see just 2 game card options for the rest of its life of the Switch 2? like the fact there's only 64 gigs or 1 gig card, which are basically game key cards, is sort of insane. Like with Switch 1, you had variable game card sizes, which allowed publishers and developers to put smaller games on fully on the cartridge. And that's what I appreciated so much about Switch 1, is that even if there was a small update to that game, at least I could put the cartridge into my Switch and just started playing without like downloading anything major. But the fact is we're sort of regressing now, and we're sort of moving to what also PlayStation and Xbox are doing, which basically installing the game. But instead of installing the game, you're just downloading the entire game, and there's nothing on the cartridge. I think that is sort of, it's sort of underwhelming.
Right, and I believe part of the reason I've heard, I don't know how accurate this is, that for a lot of third parties doing this is because the selection of cards Nintendo's made available to them isn't as robust as it was on Switch 1, meaning that in some cases they have to pay way more for more space than they actually end up needing. I don't know how accurate that is or not. But yeah, I hope that gets under control regardless, Don, because it's a little annoying, right? It
really is. Now I have to buy a micro SD card express on launch day. Thanks, Nintendo.
But do you guys know if, for the Switch 1, did they have multiple options for developers?
Yes.
Like right out of the gate, they had multiple options, or was it over time that they added those?
I think out of the gate.
Out of the gate, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why.
So that's kind of unfortunate. It's unfortunate for Switch 2 that there's only these 2 options out of the gate, and it's like, oh no, that does not look good for the future for physical for Switch 2 media.
No, it does not. At least for third parties. We do know Nintendo at least they've suggested that they're always going to be releasing a physical version, like fully on the cart, so that's good.
Yeah.
But third parties, less so. But props to Cyberpunk for
also Marvelous. Also Marvelous. They're also putting their games on their cartridge, so only Marvelous and CD Projekt Red outside of Nintendo are putting their games fully on the cartridge.
Right, wow. Alright, Nick, do you have another question?
Yeah, here's one. Will we see a price increase for NSO anytime this year? I know this is like a little less, I guess, Switch 2 specific, because this could still technically affect Switch 1. And my theory is that it's possible towards the end of the year, if not around like March time, because that's when we have, I think they said in the Switch 2 Direct that you'll have until March of 2026 to use Game Chat, right? Like, even if you're not NSO member. So do you think it's possible that we see a price increase because of Game Chat, because of GameCube on NSO, either this year or next year?
Hard to say. I think mostly right now, GameCube is an incentive for people who buy a Switch 2. I think that's the main incentive, because they need to sweeten the deal of you getting a Switch 2. I think if they're going to increase the price, they need to give you a bigger benefit. Like, GameCube games is nice, but they need to give you something that feels exclusive to Switch 2, or just exclusive to NSO in general. I don't think, like, the 2 upgrades for Zelda are nice, but the people who were interested were going to buy those anyway, even if they weren't on NSO. And I think GameCube and Game Chat are 2 new big ones for Switch 2. Like, the 2 reasons why you still have NSO. And I think over time, like, they need to have like an exclusive game or another benefit that really benefits solely people who buy a Switch 2.
F-Zero 99-2 is what we need.
F-Zero 101 Racers.
Yeah, right. That'd be hilarious. I do think they'll raise the price. Not this year, though. I think there's been too much price. Yeah, I think, as you were saying, Nick, like, once that free trial thing is up for the Game Chat, that's when they're going to raise the price, around that time, I think. But they won't do it this year. You know, they just want to, I think. The last thing they want to do at this point, I feel like, is raise prices unnecessarily. They may be forced to in some cases with the tariffs, but I don't think it would be received quite well at this point. And, you know, announcing it anytime during the Switch 2 launch period would just look, you know, it would be a disincentive to buy it, you know? Like, why I have to pay more now? So, yeah. I have a question from the audience. Blake, I'll answer this one since I'm all about this. Blake asks, will Dead by Daylight be compatible on launch, or will I have to buy an upgrade pack? So sadly, I'm a huge Dead by Daylight fan. As far as we know, there's no plans for it. They have not said anything. All we know is the first game is not compatible, meaning there will be no way to play Dead by Daylight on your Switch 2 at launch. Now, with that being said, they would be stupid not to make a Switch 2 either a compatibility patch or a Switch 2 edition version of the game. Personally, I hope for the latter, and so they can fully take advantage of the system. But yeah, I'm sure it'll be coming, but right now at launch, not happening, sadly. So,
They don't want
Oh.
people screen cheating with the game chat.
Which would be
They need to block
amazing.
that out.
It'd be so good on the system. Exactly. You can see all your teammates exactly what they're doing. It'd be great. So, here's my question though, related to the games: is what's the game plan for game prices? Like, is $70 the new standard? Is $80 the new standard? Like, we don't really know much in the way of first party prices beyond that, except for the really smaller titles like Welcome Tour, which is $10, and Drag X Drive. Do we have a price for that yet?
Nope.
No.
Wow.
No
So
price.
is it only those 3 games that we have prices on? Like Metro Prime 4, we don't know what that's going to cost, do we?
We have $10, we have $70 and $80. There's no in between. It's either
No
so
way.
high or so low.
It sort of comes back what we said in the previous discussion about this. I think it will be interesting how much Dragon Drive, Pokemon ZA on Switch 2, and Metro Prime 4 on Switch 2 will cost.
Right.
Like, those are the big indicators, because for the rest, it's sort of up in flux. Like, we have Mario Kart, we have Donkey Kong. We kind of need to see another first-party game to see what those prices are before we can make a really good assessment on this.
Yeah.
Wait, is there any chance that like Pokemon ZA and Metroid are $70 on Switch 1? And then like $80 on Switch 2? Is there any? Because I guess the last Switch 1 game before Switch 2 is going to be Xenoblade X, and that was a port. The only Switch 1 games we got this year was Donkey Kong Country Returns HD and Xenoblade X. So like we're in this new territory of pricing where these games could potentially be that high.
It's hard to say.
Yeah, you're right. That's an interesting question. I actually could see it. In fact, the more I think about it, the more I'd be surprised if that's not the case. Because aren't there some $10 Switch 2 editions already out there for the upgrade? Isn't one?
The Zeldas are $10.
Yeah,
Zelda's
that's
are
it. Zelda's $10.
Yeah.
I could absolutely see something like that for Metro Prime 4. Yeah, you get slight discount on Switch 1, but if you want the Switch 2 edition, it's $10 more for the upgrade. Or, yeah, I just think that kind of actually makes sense. Obviously, I would love a cheaper price across the board.
Yeah.
But I don't think that'd be the worst thing in the world. You know? It's kind of, it kind of throws a bone to Switch 1 players. Like, hey, we know you can't play the game by max settings or with a mouse, so here you go, you get a $10 discount or whatever.
I do think that, if I'm being honest, like the Switch 1 editions will likely still be 60, and then the Switch 2 editions, like similarly with, say, the Zeldas, Metroid and ZA will be 70.
I almost think it has to be that, because we have not had a Switch 2 edition that's the same price as the Switch version. So it would be, and Metro Prime 4 is officially a Switch 2 edition as well, right? So it'd be weird to I think it would almost be confusing not to have that maintain a similar structure as the others. So, yeah, because, it's like, why wouldn't it, I don't know. Maybe I'm off base. Anyways, Don, do you have another question for us?
Sure. I think Nintendo has put very little attention to HD Rumble 2.
Yeah, they haven't really talked about it much, have they?
Yeah. Like, what is the overall improvements from the Switch 1 counterpart? You haven't said anything. You only mentioned it in a developer interview, and that's it. You said in one instance of everybody want to switch, in regards to that, the compatibility list, that Switch Hide and Seek will not work very well because the HD intention is a bit softer. Mm-hmm. So, what is it then?
So, like, when you guys went to the Switch 2 hands-on event, like, when you were playing games like Drag X Drive, did you notice anything different in the HD Rumble and the controllers? Obviously, there's not a Switch 1 version of that game, so it's a little bit harder to compare. But what about anything like Zelda, which has a Switch 2 edition, or Kirby, or Mario Party? Could you guys really tell anything different?
I mean, yeah, I think it's funny, to Don's point, I think the reason they haven't talked about it much is because it's not all that different. Yeah. Like, it feels very similar. I would say maybe just slightly more pronounced. Like, I really did notice it in Drag X Drive. Whereas, my memory is playing a lot of Switch games. Like, it's subtle enough to the point that I often don't even notice it, And this did remind me of that, like, the early Switch era, like, where you did kind of feel... I mean, it might just be how it was implemented, really. So, yeah, I think it's just a really subtle enhancement. I don't think there's much more to it beyond that, so... But even, like, the Welcome Tour games, like, I didn't feel like there was anything there that they couldn't have already done or hadn't felt similarly on Switch 1 with their Joy-Cons, right? Like, the Maracas, like, there's a whole Maraca game already on Switch 1, you know, and it felt similar, so... Anyways. That was Don's question, right? Nick, do you have another question?
So what will third-party Switch 1 games look and run on Switch 2? I'm talking games that don't have Switch 2 versions, or it's not a Switch 2 game. So something like Monster Hunter Rise, is this going to look and feel better right out of the gate because it's running a more powerful hardware, being the Switch 2? Like, I don't think Nintendo has talked about that enough, right? Like, they've only focused on the 3 types of games, which is the free updates, the Switch 2 editions, and then the Switch 2 specific games. But for third parties, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like we really haven't seen anything directly from third parties on Switch 1 games running on Switch 2.
Yeah, it's only been the Switch 2 editions of the Marvelous games, and I think that's mostly it. I mean, there are a few games that are getting Switch 2 versions, but those are basically ports of a different version. Like, if you look at Sega's games, like, they're basically porting better-looking versions to Switch 2. So for me, I don't think they've really done that very much, no. Like even if you look back at, say, the Hogwarts Legacy developer voice, they basically said, "Oh, we built this from scratch. You can still buy an upgrade, but we built this basically from scratch."
Right.
So yeah, it's sort of in a similar fashion. My question was also, like, I'm really curious what makes certain games not run or have issues. While they explain it on a technical level, I'm still unsure why certain games won't work.
And we'll never know why. Nintendo will not tell us why they're not working. But yeah, that's a good one. I mean, we do know that they're doing a kind of weird hybrid type of system where it's like partial emulation to get Switch 1 games working. So for whatever reason, that it just doesn't universally work across the board.
Yeah, it's basically a platform layer.
Right. So hopefully they can adjust that so they can get more games compatible in the future. And that's actually a good related question. Like, will they work on reducing that list of incompatible games? Right? Will they? Because there are some prominent ones on there. I don't remember too many off the top of my head, but it'd be good to have that resolved over time.
Like, going back to like the Dead by Daylight one, like, was there a reason from the developer specifically or Nintendo where like this isn't going to work on Switch 2, or was it just like, oh, it's on the list, we're not going to say anything else?
Like the only thing they mentioned is this issue is currently being investigated on every single item on that list.
Yeah, right. Like, you're investigating all those games. Shut up, Nintendo. You got one guy in every game. That'd be amazing. All right. I'm gonna move on.
What do you got?
Yeah, I've got a question. Actually, I'm gonna have an audience question here. McCoy asks, I guess my biggest question is, what's the big holiday title? I'm sure that'll be revealed in July or September, maybe. So that's an interesting question. They are operating under the assumption it hasn't been revealed yet. I'm almost thinking, we probably know almost every game for the year. What do you guys think? Is there a big holiday title we don't know about yet?
There's no big holiday title. I think the Switch 2 is the big holiday title, right? It's a brand new console. And I say that like jokingly, like Mario Kart, like they're going to be selling this game for 10 years.
Right.
Like, I think they want everyone to get this for the holiday, this and Donkey Kong. Because after Kirby and the Forgotten Land, like, we don't know when Kirby Air Riders is coming out. We don't know when Metroid Prime's coming out. We don't know when Pokemon ZA is coming out. We don't know when Hyrule Warriors is coming out. And we don't know when Drag X Drive is coming out. It's like, there's a huge list of games that we don't know, and they're going to throw in maybe 1 or 2 more games in there. I don't see another holiday game. Like, I'm hopeful, like, it could happen, but I don't see it.
I'm in 2 minds about this. I think if you look at terms of sales, like, obviously Mario Kart is evergreen and Donkey Kong makes a good case for itself, so those are already there. I think for games that are then later upcoming, I think you need to look at Pokemon. Pokemon is a big seller on Nintendo platforms, and it will come out likely around the holiday season, if I have to imagine. When it comes for the other side of the coin, are they going to release another big franchise that holiday season? You can make a lesser case for Hyrule Warriors, but it's not really the same. I do think that you might want to put 1 more game on there. What that really is, I don't know. It could be a major deal, could be a smaller deal in a sense, but at least something that sells to a grander audience.
Yeah, I'm inclined to think it'd be on the smaller side. Like, I still think we're getting something for Mario's 40th. I could be off base. Nintendo doesn't always celebrate anniversaries, especially with a game. But, like, we talked about this before, like a port of Mario Galaxy 2 or something of that nature. That could make sense. But when it comes to the big holiday titles, I think we know them all. Like, I think it's going to be... They would likely position Pokemon around that time, Legends ZA. And then also possibly Metroid Prime 4, a November or maybe slightly earlier release. That functions as their main holiday title.
Yeah, I don't think you can build a pillar necessarily about Metroid Prime 4, but it's at least, hey, there's another game on Switch that you could possibly be interested in. But to me, like, it's weird, for example, that they didn't put Tomodachi Life for the Switch 1 audience later this year. and now put it into 2026, because that is a game with a broader appeal. Like, you want games with a broader appeal. I think Pokemon, outside of what is there for Switch 2, is the broader appeal game later in the year.
Right.
Yeah, what if it is just simply like a Switch 2 edition of a game? What if it's Super Mario Maker 2 Switch 2 edition? With like,
I don't think necessarily that would be bad. Like,
yeah,
you put something smaller in there. Who cares, right? It's another game under the cap of the Switch 2.
Mario 40 incoming, baby. That, Mario 35 sequel for the Mario 40th anniversary. It's time. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I would love to be surprised. I would love if they've been holding back a big holiday title, but they already have so many games to get through, and Kirby Air Ride 2, it could be that title. It could be the holiday title. And Kirby, especially with how, Kirby's, like, family-friendly nature, like, and broad appeal, I could see that being positioned as a big... Actually, rethinking things now. I think Metroid Prime 4 fall, Kirby Air Ride closer, is November, possibly. Like, I think that might be their last big title besides Pokemon, so...
What do you put Hyrule Warriors in? Do you think you put that in that December spot? Like that December...
Yeah, that seems like a December game, yeah.
Pokemon?
I think Hyrule Warriors.
Hyrule Warriors.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Done.
Yeah, I think September will likely be Metroid, and then October or November is kind of interchangeable between Kirby and Pokemon.
Yeah. That's a good one. Hyrule Warriors typically is in the fall period, right? But that's not to say they'll... Or it was once at least. I don't know if it was twice.
Age of Calamity was November, I think, 2020 or 2021. And then Fire Emblem Warriors, I think, was like August or September of Switch.
It was October.
Okay.
It was the week before
October,
Mario Odyssey.
Oh my god.
Well, there we go. So that's where they'll just drop it whenever they want then. Yeah. Wait for Mario, who cares?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. But I suspect we know all the big hitters, heavy hitters this year. So
once again, I don't think they could add something small, but what it really is, we don't know.
Yeah. Let's see. I have another question from the audience here. David asks, will cloud saves work between Switch 1 and 2? Currently, you can use the same save data on two systems and have it sync back and forth. So by adding the Switch 2, will saves sync between all your systems?
Yes.
That's actually a really good question. I think you're right, Don, at the least for any game that's not Switch 2 edition. But what about the Switch 2 editions? Like, if you're playing Kirby on Switch 2, and then can you bring back that save data to Switch 1?
I mean, if you buy a cartridge,
a separate save file, right? Because it would technically be two different games, right?
Not really. Not really. So here's the thing.
It would be totally fine carrying over the save.
Because here's the thing. With the Switch 2 edition, it's basically an upgrade pack. So you could technically, and this is also true for other DLC with Nintendo stuff, you can still technically, like, access the game. It will basically tell you, hey, you cannot access this part anymore because you're playing it on a different system or on a different device without the DLC. So technically, I do think it's possible. They even specified with the Switch 2 editions that are physically, hey, you can put it also in the Switch 1. So I don't necessarily think it's impossible. There are just going to be compatibility issues between the different save files that you put on one system to the other.
Like, yeah, I mean, I would hope that... Yeah, I honestly don't know what's going to happen here. Like, my hope is that the Switch 2 edition, that save file is saved, like, independently of... Yeah, actually, I don't even know. I have no idea, so... I didn't want to speculate.
So, yeah, the only thing that I'm kind of worried about with specifically the Switch 2 editions of Zelda is that they added the secondary save file on the Switch 2 editions of those games.
Right.
Second save slot. So what happens to the second save slot if you go back to Switch 1?
Yeah, that's a question.
It wouldn't exist, right? Because you wouldn't be able to access it, right? Just because it doesn't exist on the Switch 1 versions.
That's why I'm wondering if it's like, it might be the type of thing where once you convert, there's no bringing it back. Like you can't download that save data. I mean, actually, wouldn't that make sense? Like, because now if you would convert to a Switch 2 edition game, it's technically a new game. Like, would you even be able to access that on Switch 1? It wouldn't acknowledge the Switch 2 edition, right? So I'm thinking that it may be locked to the Switch 2.
Maybe for those specific games, but it's kind of hard to tell.
It is. We'll have to. Again, this is something Nintendo should answer, right? Yeah. We don't know. So, all right. Well, any other questions you guys have for Switch 2?
I think that's most of mine for right now. Don, do you have any more?
I think how will the Switch 2 handle large file sizes? Will the eShop be considerably faster? We know that it has Wi-Fi 6, but that's only half the story.
Right. And kind of related, Carl is asking if there will be network improvements too, which kind of ties into that as well. We know we'll have a better Wi-Fi chip, but we don't know what that actually
Wi-Fi
bears
6,
out.
which is far more recent than whatever the Switch 1 had.
Right. I hope that all that stuff runs better, you know, like, yeah, whether it comes to downloading games, which can take a while, accessing the eShop, like, that has to be flawless now, right? It has to be.
They've had like 8 years to work on it. Like, it has to be flawless.
In the footage we've seen, like, on average, a page on the Switch 1 eShop takes 17 seconds to load.
Right.
In the example we've seen from Nintendo, when opening a eShop page, and that could be marginally different once we get to the actual system, it was about 3 seconds.
Right.
That's a big difference. I'll take that. That's quick.
All right. We have another question here from Aristoteles, who asks, why are they reserving 3 gigabytes of RAM for the system if it's going to have exactly the same lifeless menu and no music or themes, as well as having the same limitations, like only being able to record 30 seconds of video? So, good question. Obviously, this is a question we can't answer ourselves, but we can speculate. Because Nintendo's done similar things like this before, where they reserve a lot of systems have, where they at launch they reserve a larger amount of memory than they may need, just so that they can future-proof it in case they want to add something down the line. Now, eventually they may realize that they don't need that room, that amount of memory, and will free some of it up. We saw this, I think, with the Wii U or maybe the Switch. I forget what platform it was, but 3DS maybe. We saw it before. And but also there is the fact that we know that Game Chat's using up. Sorry, Don.
It was the Wii U.
The Wii U, thank you. But we know Game Chat's can be using up some of that memory. But also, it does make me wonder if there is a possibility that Nintendo has reserved some of that memory for a future update where we do get custom themes. Maybe maybe it's not ready now, but maybe it will be in the future, and that's why. So don't complain.
I find it funny that they went back on what I wanted with Switch 1 and now reverse engineered to Switch 2, because if you don't remember, with Switch 1 the entire operating system run under a megabyte. And the fact that Game Chat is now such a previous function of Switch 2, I have the feeling a good chunk of that has been taken by Game Chat.
Yeah, I think you're right, which is kind of unfortunate, just that, but that's not a feature that everyone's going to use, right? So it's kind of a little annoying that it's that much memory is reserved for it, but you know, what can you do?
Yeah.
Maybe, I do wonder if they ever might go the route where some games can, like, just ignore it. Kind of like Smash Brothers and 3DS. Smash is like, no, we're not using any home menu functionality. We're taking up all the memory, you know? So...
That feels very real possible, yeah.
It could happen, we'll see. Ty D asks, will Princess Peach Showtime and Yoshi's Crafted World get update patches for better performance and graphics in handheld mode, mainly graphics for Yoshi's? So I think this actually hits at a broader question here. Could we see games that ran at a much lower resolutions on Switch run in handheld mode? Could they run better on Switch 2? Like, an easy way to do this would be just trick those games into thinking they're running in dock mode when you're playing Switch 1 portably, because that Switch screen, or that Switch 2 screen, is capable of 1080p visuals now, right? So I wonder, could they make a simple patch or like an OS option, like allow it to run these games in dock form while in handheld mode?
I mean, the Switch 2 runs at a different clock speed and different specs altogether, so you definitely see some small improvements here and there. But if you want an actual improvement, that I don't think necessarily until they do patches, like, you won't see like any major way. But there will be smaller improvements for sure.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think anything too major, like you were saying, Don. Like, if these games did have something major, I think that they would be a part of the free update list. Which, again, these are 2 games I totally forgot about, so they can come later this year, maybe next year, where Nintendo's like, oh, here's another batch of free updates to first-party games, and it could be Princess Peach and Yoshi on it.
Yeah.
It's Toasty King asks, can they still maintain good grades at university after this console comes out?
I mean, also, the thing is, like, no, I think you can. Like, this came out my last year of college, so, like, the Switch 1 did. So I would go to class early with my Switch 1 and play Zelda, getting ready for class. Like, that got me to go to class, like, on time most of the time, because, like, I'm just sitting here playing Zelda. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to go back home to put it on my TV. So yeah, I think you can do well in college with this.
Awesome. See, there you go. You're set. They got it. All right. Eggy asks, I'd love to know if you can attach webcams to the dock. We talked about this before, right? So
yes, we have. Yeah.
But they continue, if games have a left-handed mode, or if games will have a left-handed mode for the mouse mode, and if you can download the game while playing. I'm sure you can download. Oh, because well, wait, hold on. You can already download the game while playing on Switch 1 as long as it's not online.
So I think the second question
is that not the case?
No, so the OS is this small that if you try to download the game and start up a game, the game will lag and boot up considerably.
So yeah, I think the second question is more so like how you can do it on PS4, PS5, and I assume Xbox, or like a portion of the game, at least with a physical game, like I plug it in and it lets you play like the very beginning of the game, and then once you reach a certain point, it's like, oh, you have to download or install the rest of the game. So I think that was more so related to the question, which I don't think that's going to be the case for Switch 2, right? Like I think they're going to make you download the whole thing.
No, what I think they're after is that with Switch 1, if you start to download the game, you cannot do really much else without the system OS lagging.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
What they're asking is, did they get rid of that so that you can now download while playing at the same time? If they're using 3 gig for an OS, you would assume that they improved that considerably. Because, you know, previously you were tied to just waiting until the download is done unless you really wanted to deal with that. I would assume so. But once again, and this is a pattern here, Nintendo hasn't told us very much.
They haven't. Yep, that's why we're here, trying to answer, or at least asking the questions and trying to answer the ones that we can. Like the left-handed mode thing, right? I don't know if they even talked about that yet. Like, for instance, I wish I tested this at Metroid Prime 4. But, like, I wonder if that has a look. I went through the options, actually, so maybe if you go back and look, you can see it. But, like, can you use, could you use the mouse in left-handed mode for that one?
I'm pretty sure. So both Joy-Con support mouse controls, right? So you can basically swap controls around with the control mapping feature, but it would be nice to have more natively.
Yeah, it definitely would be.
Natively, like, and if I was playing, like, I could just put my left Joy-Con down and use that as the mouse, and then use this one as it would be the right one, right? Like, is that what the question is too? But we don't know if that's the case. Right?
Yeah, I mean, you can do it from an OS level, but it would be better if it was already implemented in the game.
It would be, yeah. Lord asks, but that's good to know that at an OS level too. So
yeah.
Lord asks, can we get a cheaper version that isn't mobile and comes with a Pro Controller instead of the Joy-Cons? That would be pretty sweet. I actually love that idea. I myself, like, that would actually interest me. I never play handheld modes. I would love to be able to buy just a dock-only version and have it come with a Pro Controller. Hey, that'd be amazing. Normally I would say no, there's probably no chance of it happening. But I do think we are in an interesting time, and that's not really a good thing. But with all these tariffs and anything, Nintendo may be looking to cut costs however they can. And with a docked-only version, that would allow them to cut costs and sell it at a cheaper price and expand the market possibly more so. You know, and try to, like, you know, avoid some of those tariffs. Not avoid the tariffs, but, like, better deal with those tariffs. And I could maybe see it happening. We have a Switch Lite after all. This would be the opposite version of that, basically, a docked-only version. And it's possible, but I don't. You know, we don't know until Nintendo ever announces it. So
it's crazy to think about because everyone's doing the opposite, right? Like Sony and Microsoft are apparently working on like mobile devices, so they're going this way. Nintendo would be like, "No, we're just gonna put this in your house, and you can't take it off the dock or anything."
But Sony already has a mobile device. It's called the PlayStation Portal.
They do have the Portal.
Good point. This guy, Charles, asks, where is my email, Nintendo? I know some people are still waiting on their emails to buy the Switch 2 from Nintendo, so...
Oh, man.
The Great Bikini asks, have you experienced any hardware bugs while playing? So Don and you and I both got to at least see the system in person, if not play it. I don't recall seeing any bugs at all during the event. Like, it seemed to run flawlessly, right?
But also, we didn't really see the OS, which is also a thing. Like, they completely disabled it. So there might be a reason why they're not showing it at that point yet.
Did you guys get any errors when clicking on the home button at all? Or like did the little icon
it did nothing,
yeah. Gerald of Normandy asks, will plugging in a charger give it extra processing power when in handheld mode, or is this happening only when docked?
That's only when docked.
Yeah.
Because of the van in the dock.
Exactly. The dock has a fan, and it can't run higher without it. So, yeah, I mean, it could. It's my melt. So, yeah, they're not going to do that, unfortunately.
You can plug in 2 chargers at once now, the top and the bottom.
Maybe you could buy like a fan accessory to like blow air onto it. That'd be hilarious. So
that would be really funny.
Christopher asks how to get one. We know how to get one. It's just, can you get one with that method, right? Go to GameStop. GameStop has announced that it will have inventory for even those who didn't pre-order. So go to GameStop, that's your best bet. So, I'm looking to see if there's any. Jay asked, just want to know when Metroid Prime 4 is dropping. That's all. Yeah, we talked about it earlier. We'll have to wait and see. But
I have a formal question that we before we started recording alluded to, but never got around to. It's like regarding the future of the system. I expected more third-party announcement post the direct, which really hasn't materialized.
Right, so you're basically asking, where are the other third-party games at, right? Yeah, because we had that big drop, we had the big bunch announced in the Direct, and then there were a handful of games shortly thereafter, and then that's it. It's been kind of very quiet after, right? So yeah,
there's only been one major announcement post this whole saga, which was Virtua Fighter.
Wow, and that's a big one, to be fair, but yeah, that's just one game. So where are the others? Like, is everyone hedging their bets again for some reason, or is it? I mean, it could be, Don, a function of, based on the rumblings of not everyone getting a dev unit, early enough, right? They may have started games late in many cases, or not at all until more recently, and maybe that's a holdup. Maybe that's why, and that could be a problem, Don. Actually, like if maybe after these first few months, there's like lulls in game releases, right?
Yeah, because there was a big blow up. If you look back at Switch 1, like there was a while where it was still easy goings, but like in October, like the eShop blew up and like more games came out every single week. I think this is a similar situation again, but like you would have thought that Nintendo would have figured this out by now, like 8 years on.
Right.
Yeah, it is odd that we don't have dates for like Elden Ring or even like Final Fantasy VII Remake, which are major titles, major third-party titles. We just don't have any dates for them at all.
I imagine there will be a direct around summer for Game Fest time, like likely after, because Switch launch will also be a hell of a joint. So like end of June there will likely be something, but it feels like we're just waiting in a holding pattern. We're excited for launch, and we're excited for the games we know are coming.
Right.
But what is like really coming, like from August onward outside of Kirby?
We'll have to wait and see. So, Freeman asks, is there a performance loading difference between game cards and digital eShop games? Because we did see this on Switch 1, where game loading time could change depending on not just whether you're playing an SD card or not, but what brand of SD card. And I'm sure there'll be a difference here as well for that same reason. But the question I suppose is, like, will the game card be as fast as the fastest SD card?
So we know that the game cards also have faster speeds, which is why that's contributing to why they're more expensive to produce as well. I don't think there's a major difference, but it does depend on the SD card you use if you have a full internal storage.
Right. Crom asks, is the HDMI version 2.0 or 2.1? I believe it's 2.1, right? Am I wrong?
I believe it's 2.1, yes.
I think that's what I recall
believe
reading,
so. Yeah.
For most people, I don't think it'll matter too much, but good to know for those who even know to ask that question. But maybe double check that, because we're not 100% sure. So, and I think that is. Sorry, go ahead.
Huh?
Okay, I think that's all the questions I have. Do we have any final ones before we wrap it up here? Or any final thoughts on everything before we wrap it up?
I don't think so.
Really, no.
I hope Nintendo answers. Well, if they don't answer it, we'll figure it out for them within the next week or two, the next month when the Switch 2 comes out. Because we'll be posting stuff online and people will be posting stuff everywhere. I just wish it was more concrete and more straightforward with a lot of these questions.
I will say this: like it's sort of like the point we made also last time is like, why has Nintendo communicated some of this stuff so poorly?
They've been weird. They've been kind of weird at this launch. I don't know what happened. Like, I don't know if the teams were rusty, after it being 8 years into launching a console. But it felt like there were some glaring holes. Now, they have started filling them a little bit through Nintendo Today and other little tidbits here and there. But it still does feel like there's just, as we've talked about now for over an hour, just some things we still don't know, especially in, like, big ways, involving, like, game chat and the webcams we can use. Like, it's a little annoying that people have no idea whether they should buy a camera at launch or not, because they don't know their webcams will work or not, right? So
and what I also find, like, for example, weird is that they only detailed like the free updates like less than a week ago. And you already knew this information. You knew which games were supporting game chat. You could have just added those details to the website any further. It's like, that's what the other games do.
Yeah. That's right. I do have one final question here from Owen, who asks, would the mouse controls lead us to a new Mario Paint game? And they actually posted the box art of Mario Paint, which I love. I wish! I would love a new Mario Paint game! Right?
I mean, I'm pretty sure... I mean, they have to add this to NSO at some point and just allow you to use the mouse.
At least, yeah. At the least, we should get the SNES game, which, you know, will be fun, but of course it's also limited to what you can do.
And then on Switch 1, you can just use a USB mouse.
Right, yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I do want to give a shout out real quick to, I forget their name, but they have a Cranky Kong as their profile picture, and they do amazing, like, recreations of real-life pictures and art in Mario Paint. It looks so freaking good. And my point is I'm so excited to see what people could create in Mario Paint now, having easier ways of sharing it, you know, like with videos and screen capture. Like, I think that'd be really fun. So I would love if they actually made a proper sequel on Switch 2. But given the fact that it would have been a great launch game and it's not here, I'm thinking it's probably not happening. So
who knows? Like, who knows? What's not there can still come. Like, again, there's multiple games over and over that I didn't expect to come back, and we got them literally this year announced. So there's also, you know, what's not there can still happen.
Yeah, I like your optimism. All right, well, that's going to wrap up for us here, everyone. So thanks for watching. Of course, stay tuned for more questions we have, specifically about Mario Kart World and other games coming to Switch 2. Should be a lot of fun. So for now, if you want to follow Nick and Don, let's find out where you can follow them at. So Nick, let's start off with you. Where can people follow you at?
Yeah, besides the videos here on GameXplain, you can find me on my own channel. That's Steftando, STEFTNDO. Go check it out.
All right, how about you, Don?
You can follow me at Nintendo. It's NANTNDAAN.
And you can find links to both of those in the description below. And with that, thanks for watching. Stay tuned again for part 2 with Mario Kart World questions coming up. And we'll catch you later. Bye, everyone.